Hello, all you lovely people. Thank you for tuning in to this podcast, which is all about what it's like to be high on marijuana. This is the longest episode with my previously recorded interviews. I do plan on doing some new ones, but I do think the length is worth it. The topic of music while high is definitely one of my favorites. I really don't even know what else to say. I'm pretty sure all of you who have experienced weed and music together can attest to how amazing it is. So, without further ado, here you go.
For me, music, when it comes to being stoned, there's not really a way to describe how it changes music. I can't describe that. I can't describe how it changes music.
Music is different. No.
Music is like talking to me at this point. It's not. It doesn't enhance it. It doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it worse. It just heightens my intensity for it. But that's not even the way to describe it.
There are some times when I'll hear music and man, I'm singing along. The song that is the most striking to me is Maniac. He's a maniac.
I can't go into it. I don't even know how to even articulate that into something I could consciously understand.
Oh my God, I could just dive into that song.
I can't even consciously understand how weed affects music or how much it changes how I deal with music. I can't articulate it. It's beyond my brain's comprehension. It just exists.
One time, my brother and I did an experiment. We decided to see what would happen since music seems to sound very good when I'm high, unlike a lot of other people. We thought we'd put on an album that we thought was really lousy. It was a bad album that we had agreed in real life or non-high life was a bad album. We put it on, and sure enough, we started laughing because we were having this internal dialogue, each of us, that, this really isn't so bad after all. There's really some stuff here. It's really actually not that bad of an album. There's some good stuff. And we started laughing because we knew from a, quote, objective standpoint that in all other times we'd heard it, we thought it was a terrible album.
There was one tune, Rainbow and Roses, over and over. And they did something to the track where it was like in and out. And when I heard that, it was like, what?
I remember that classic story about Keith Richards being in multiple simultaneous altered states and stumbling into his hotel room, hitting record, playing a riff, and knocking his head on something and losing consciousness. And the next morning he hit rewind, and it was satisfaction.
I think of like a jazz musician, and they would get high all the time because it gave them real or perceived, and who really knows, but it gave them the freedom to create things that were never created before.
So listening to music is always really good high, but I didn't realize how awesome it was until I went to the jazz showcase and my boyfriend and I were high. For me, it was an unbelievable experience. They were great musicians, so I'm sure, that had a lot to do with it.
Having had a little pot in there makes certain kinds of music just pop.
I was just able to focus more on each musician and the sounds they were making and the energy they were putting off and their movements, their facial expressions, their bodies. And it was a blast. I felt like I was in it and they were the music, and it was a lot of fun. That was definitely one of the most enhancing experiences I've had high.
You turn out the lights in your dorm room back in college and turn on, back then it was Abbey Road or whatever was the Beatles, and it would take you away.
When listening to music, I'd listen more to the structure, try to listen to what the structure was, what the musician, think about what the musician was trying to accomplish.
And you'd think, was Paul McCartney knowing that people would be listening to this stuff when you're stoned? And there seemed to be just, the musicians were just talking to you, and it was this communication.
And again, I won't say that those things aren't in my mind ordinarily, but they seem to be more prominent if I am smoking dope.
That might be why the Beatles in particular, in my experience, because we were part of that arc of where the Beatles came from and then what they changed into and what they changed into again and changed into again. And we were following that part of it. And there was a time when you knew they were all getting high. You could just tell that there were other influences coming into their music making experience, and we as the audience were receiving it in that same kind of a spirit, and it was always different. There were new influences coming into the music, and it was very powerful to play a side of Abbey Road or whatever, the White Album, just stoned out of your mind, and the black lights are on and all the other lights are off. At that time, that was a cultural experience.
But I do remember, because everybody's like, oh yeah, you gotta listen to music when you get high. So I do remember listening to The Doors, and it was so much instrumental, but it was for the first time in my life, I found myself really enjoying the message or the meaning somehow that the artist tried to put through through just the sound of it. There's an appreciation for music. Before I called it music, but it was really songs. But this was music. This was finding and experiencing the beauty of the pattern and the quality of sound.
Being high just really facilitates a union with sound. It just does.
If you're really focused on it, you really can hear everything. Because when you're focused on it, all the little distractions of outside noises and stuff kind of clear away, and you're really just listening to it. If you decide to put on headphones or whatever, it's even better because you can kind of lose yourself right in that song.
I think maybe you could think about it as the difference between listening to music from a speaker and listening to music in headphones.
It's almost like looking when you're sober. It's like looking at a painting. When you're high, it's almost like being in the painting.
When you're playing music when you're high, it can be good and bad. You can totally lose yourself in your own part, and that's when your bandmates kind of start screaming and swearing at you. Where are you? We stopped playing that song, 3 songs ago.
You're more in tune with what you're doing, and there's certain inhibitions I think that you don't really have. You're less self-conscious maybe.
And the good thing though is that if you are just playing by yourself, you may find places in your music that you've never gone before, because it kind of makes you a little bit fearless.
You could be doing the most simplest thing, and then when you're stoned, you just you let it go a little more, and you just let the guitar sort of speak. It's a sort of different relationship.
Yeah, it's almost like you can, slip into your mode, and marijuana really enables that, because you have to do this thing. So let's say it's I'm gonna play the guitar for a little bit, and then you're all right, I'm gonna smoke a doobie and then play my guitar. So you set yourself up for this activity.
I've played a couple of parties when I was high. I think they went okay. Nobody really complained.
I played in a band a little bit in high school, but then in college I had a couple really good bands, and it had always been a very integral part of that, and I hardly ever practiced or played a show sober.
I feel like the only difference with, playing music stoned or playing music not stoned is when you're playing it not stoned, you're thinking about how much you wish you were stoned while playing.
Too much is not good. A little bit is okay. It actually, in some ways, it enhances the experience, and you almost feel more connected to your bandmates. If you're in a situation where you can kind of focus on another musician, on what they're playing, it kind of helps you almost connect with them better. And you can kind of shut out the people you're performing for and really just connect with the guys on the stage.
Music is like art, is like movies, is like anything that you engage in when you have this mind-altering adjustment, it's either a whole lot better or a whole lot worse.
The music's different because you hear every note, every word.
It allows you to experience it in a way that's not judged by yourself.
Music, I really get into slower music that not necessarily something I would listen to every day or listen to in the car. Portishead, Radiohead, any band with head in the name.
You know, listen to a lot of like prog rock records in high school or gangster rap. Those were the two genres I listened to while stoned, mostly, which couldn't really be farther apart on the spectrum, but they were both interesting for different ways while stoned.
Bachelorette by Bjork is an amazing song to listen to fully cranked up on your stereo and just sit and close your eyes and just like feel the vibrations of the song. And
again, also dependent on who I was smoking with. And I remember there was 1 or 2 times where like the two groups who I smoked with crossed over a little bit, and like playing some prog rock for this one guy, he was like, he liked it, but he's like, what the hell is going on here? Like, because we had just smoked. And he's like, this is some crazy shit. I don't know if I can fuck with it. And he was like, no, this is good. It's just weird, man. I'm like, well. Yeah.
I prefer that type of music when I'm stoned because it's very complex. It's very relaxing. Some of it's pretty melancholy. And it's not something I listen to normally when I'm driving. So when I'm driving, going somewhere, I like to be a little more pumped up. It's perfect for when you want to be mellow and be relaxed and you're in that state of mind.
Many times, yes, the lyrics would take on a new meaning. And whether my interpretation was accurate or not, it really doesn't matter. But objectively, there was an enhanced, maybe you'd assign more meanings to the lyrics than was actually there.
The relationship with the lyrics can change. You could maybe feel an idea a little bit more, feel it stronger in some regards.
Or maybe perceptions were just opened up and you were grasping what was being expressed by the artist. And I don't really know the difference.
Like with all things, it just makes you appreciate it more.
There are very few people on earth that do not agree that music and marijuana are a really good combination. Go to a concert, there's pot there. Go to where people are listening to music or dancing, they're high on something. They're just high on something. Music is a very magical thing, and it serves an escape purpose, and being high and combining it with music is just, it's ecstatic.
I feel like this episode is filled with more specific examples and memories than other episodes, and I think that's a testament to the power of both music and cannabis. Listening to music while high seems to really stick in people's brains. I'll bet neuroscientists have tested that, but if they haven't, they definitely should. So thank you very much for listening. I do sincerely hope you're enjoying this podcast even half as much as I've had making it. If you do enjoy it, I genuinely hope that you rate and review it on your podcast platform, especially Apple Podcasts, and of course, tell other people about it. Do I feel terrible for asking for help? A little, yeah, but I believe this content is worthy of being out there in the world and enjoyed by as many people as possible. Or maybe I'm an idiot. Either way, go ahead and share it. You've got nothing to lose. Now, enough of that subject. In the next episode, they will talk about how movies and TV shows are different when they're high.